Hey y'all, Big Z again. I'm going to do a 2-for-1 today and shoot this video, and I wanted to do it separately. And I want to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein thing that's going on in an angle that I don't really hear being talked about. First of all, again, thank you for your support. Thumbs up and comments. View counts are just being fucked with. But anyway, let me just get this out here on the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And I'm watching the Danny Jones interview, which is really good, and I'm going to pick up on the rest of it in a minute. But I want to get this out here now because there's a big discussion on what happened to Mr. Epstein. We're talking about, did this man either commit suicide or did he hang himself, or was he murdered? And I would say they're pushing the argument towards option A or option B. And if we learned anything about how they operate, it's always option C. So if the discussion is, did he commit suicide or was he murdered? That's what they want you talking about. They don't want you discussing option C. And what is option C? The fucker ain't dead. And I know because of their modus operandi and their code of honor they have amongst themselves that they don't off their own. And that's how they keep them quiet and keep them mouth shut, even when they're in a jail cell or something, because we'll get you out. Okay, one way or the other, we'll get you out, legally or by other means. But it's a code that they go by. I'll just say right now, that fucker's sitting on his island right now, and he's probably banging some 13-year-old girl tonight, for all we know. And he's probably had a lot of work done and doesn't look like himself and everything else. But let me just stick on this for a minute and say, well, how is that possible? Well, I want to say this. So somebody that followed me and saw my interview on Tony Sayers' show, and know that in 2002 I died. I was in a violent surfing accident and I broke my neck. I fractured 1, 4, and 6, and I had the hangman's fracture, and I survived it. And let me tell you something, fucking was horrible. I drowned, tore part of my scalp off, and those of you who saw the interview, I won't repeat it, but yeah, it was pretty violent. So I've been through the hangman's fracture, so I know what it is. I can tell you this for other experiences in my life. You cannot get the hangman's fracture unless you have a suspension drop. And depending on what his body weight was, it would take probably at least a minimum of a 4-foot drop of bam, to break that thing. And in fact, I just watched on Danny Jones where it said when they're doing the numbers of people who have suspension drops, that only about 2 out of every, whatever it was, some extremely low number, had the fracture, the hangman's fracture. Other is just strangulation, which is a fucking horrible way to die. Number 2, so to say that he had the autopsy report showing it's a fracture did not fucking happen in there. That means someone fucking snapped his neck. But when they snap the neck, that's not how the neck breaks. Okay, you can't. I don't think you can do it. And somebody's been in submission grappling for a very long time. The rear naked choke is something we perfect. So I don't know. Anyway, so the discussion is, go back to it. We stay on pathway here. So the discussion is, did this man commit suicide or was he murdered or taken out? See, I'm not self-censoring. I would say neither of the two. So if he was murdered in his jail cell, that took some operatives to come in there and to do that. I don't think either of those took place. And if he was going to hang himself with a bed sheet, it would be what they call the partial suspension hang. And you've got to deal with things like gag reflex and choking and airway. So it's very hard, very, very, very hard for you to do this. It would take probably a combination of a lot of drugs to, almost knock you out so your body doesn't fight it so bad, especially if you've got access to your hands and you can lift yourself back up. It's literally almost impossible to do. So no, he did not commit suicide, and no, he did not get murdered either. I would go with option C, and he never died. In fact, yesterday, Trump admitted just that when he said, are we still talking about Epstein? I mean, this guy never dies, does he? No, he never dies because the fucker's not dead. You can see he's sitting on his island right now, drinking whatever it is and partying with young girls still. So how did they pull this off? Well, I would say they pulled this off the same way Jesus did. I mean, if you look at the life of Jesus and Mary and you compare it to jizz smell and Epstein boys are almost the same thing. They're both running around with little harems of little underage lace days, aren't they? Anyway, so going back to the drug use. They've got a drug that you can take, and we've seen it in movies, and it's documented and so forth in documentaries, that this drug that you can administer to someone can make the heart rate so faint that it almost doesn't register and you can't see the breath and all that. And so for all purposes that you're dead. And you can stay in that state for, I think, up to like 2 or 3 days. It gets very dangerous because you get tissue starts getting, messed with because it's not getting a lot of blood and oxygen. So it is very dangerous, but you can stay in that state. So let's take option C, and let's just say they slipped him a Mickey like they did to Jesus on with that thing on the hyssop branch thing, and took his ass right out, but he didn't die either, did he? Because you remember back then, they didn't break his legs, and that was, I thought, one of the requirements when you get crucified was to break the legs, but they didn't do it to him for some reason. So maybe that whole thing was pre-planned out as well. He got the heads up. It was going to happen. Just saying. So let's suppose they did that, and they slipped him one of those Mickeys and got him somewhere and, let him lay there and swap the bodies and did an autopsy on someone else. Maybe somebody that looks like him. Maybe someone else that also died of a supposed hanging with a neck fracture. One Anthony Bourdain. Because there's a lot of talk about that taking place. And having said that, Anthony Bourdain was a purple belt under Renzo Gracie. He's a big guy. He was 6'4", 6'5", so whoever took Bourdain out that's a major professional hit. And I don't know if I went into it in the previous video what all Anthony Bourdain witnessed in that hotel. He caught a California senator in there with a young black boy who died, this child. Anyway, long story short is, there's a big connection between Anthony Bourdain's death and this thing with Epstein. So I would say this. I would say that this dude is not dead. He is alive, and they pushed the argument over there, so we focus on A and B and not C. I'm just saying. And that brings up a discussion, again, on what we talk about on the Leggy Babylon channel and what actually took place on the cross. And it isn't what we thought and what we think. And I would make the assertion that he didn't die either. And anyway, that's that. All right, I wanted to bring that up and see where this thing leads the next day. But we've got a chance right now to stay on this, because this whole thing is about human trafficking and who the people are who do this. And I've got a video on Elon Musk and how Elon Musk will maybe give a example of how we know it is that the Greek did come before the Hebrew. And I've got to make sure I get everything correct because I don't want to give him misinformation on it. But anyway, just another thing to point out. And going back to Epstein, I don't think the fucker's dead. And I think they all know it. And that list is huge. And all those fuckers are on it. And they're all fucking scared shitless. And they're all covering for each other. And they're all in deep shit. We know who's running the operation. The children of Abraham. Same butt shoes behind all this fucking shit. Anyway, I'm out.